Shenhe is back, and if you want to build her right, this quick guide has you covered. She is a 5-star Cryo pull-on user who is a support that greatly increased cryo damage as well as shreds the enemy resistance. And thanks to the release of Escoffier boosting the freeze reaction, Shenhe got a massive comeback. In this video, we'll break down her talents, best rotation, weapons, artifacts and teams, as well as her constellations and my take on where she stands in the current meta. Hello, welcome to Genshin Filter, your quick guide for everything Genshin. So let's get started. The Skirk and Shenhe bundles are here, and if you're low on wishes, I know topping up in game can get really expensive. Here is how you can save money with today's sponsor, Loot Bar. Loot Bar is a safe, secure and reliable way to top up Genesis crystals, with up to 25% off compared to in-game prices. Plus, new users get a 10% off coupon. Loot Bar has worked with many well-known creators and has great reviews, so it's very safe and trustworthy. The process is super simple. Choose the deal you want, enter your UID and server, and you are done. It's 100% safe and delivered just under 30 minutes. And yes, PlayStation and Xbox players can use it too. Loot Bar also supports other games like Honkai Star Rail and Withering Waves, so hit the link in the description or pin comment to try it yourself and start saving. And thank you Loot Bar for sponsoring this video. Shenhe normal and charge attacks are standard pull-on hits and completely irrelevant for her playstyle. Her elemental skill does a small cryo attack and then gives each cryo character on the team, including Shenhe, a number of quills that greatly buff their cryo attacks. You can either tap or hold the skill. On tap, it gives 5 quills to each cryo character and has a 10-second cooldown. On hold, it gives 7 quills to each cryo character with a 15-second cooldown. Because the tap version has a relatively short cooldown, it can allow Shenhe to do 2 skill taps and get up to 10 quills in one rotation, which we'll cover in just a bit. Her elemental burst does an AoE cryo hit and then creates a field that deals AoE cryo damage over time, as well as reduce both cryo and physical res by up to 15% at talent level 10. Her Ascension 1 grants 15% cryo damage to the active character inside her burst. Her Ascension 4 gives different buffs to the team, depending on whether you press or hold her skill. When you press it, it grants 15% skill and burst damage for 10 seconds. And when held, it gives 15% normal charge and plunge attack damage for 15 seconds. All these talents, together with the right supportive weapon and artifacts, makes her an amazing buffer for any cryo character on the team. As for her overworld passive, she gained 25% more rewards when dispatched on a leeway expedition. For talent priorities, focus mostly on her skill to maximize her quill buffing. Then her burst for better damage and cryo res shred. Her normal and charge attacks can be completely ignored. For rotations, Shenhe's skill, whether tap or hold, gives her 2 distinct playstyles. Let's start with the simpler one, the hold version, which works best with main DPS units like Skirk or Wriothesley, who can't swap mid-rotation and rely mostly on normal attack damage. In this case, rotate through your team as usual. Then on Shenhe, hold her skill to give the maximum number of quills, since you won't be able to refresh them mid-rotation. And holding it also grants normal attack buff through her Ascension 4. Then use her burst and switch to your main DPS to do your damage as usual. Now for main DPS like Ayaka, who can swap off mid-rotation and rely more on burst damage, use Shenhe early in the rotation. Tap her skill to get the cooldown ticking. Then use her burst and keep doing your team rotation till you get to Ayaka, to use her skill and burst. While her burst is still hitting the enemy and consuming quills, swap back to Shenhe to tap her skill again and refresh the quills. Then return to Ayaka to finish the rotation with her normal and charge attacks. Her signature weapon, Calamity Queller, is a good option, as it gives tons of attack which help boost her quills buff. But the Favonius Lance is sometimes considered better to support her and the team's energy needs. Otherwise, you have a wide pool of alternative options to choose from. Any energy recharge or offensive pull-up that provides good attack will work well. For artifacts, the 4-piece Noblesse Oblige is best, to boost her and the team's attack. For main stats on the Sands, go with attack or energy recharge. Around the 180 ER is a good place to aim for, and can go lower depending on how many cryo characters you have on the team. For the Goblet, go with attack, and for the Circlet, go with attack as well to boost her quills buff. Or crit rate if you need more to activate the Favonius Lance reliably. For substats, make sure you have enough ER to boost consistently. Then focus on attack percent and flat attack, followed by crit rate and damage. Shenhe really excels in freeze teams, so let's cover her best synergies and give some team building tips. Her best performing teams are with Escoffier and Furina, which form the strongest freeze core for any cryo main DPS like Skirk, Ayaka, Wriothesley and Ganyu. Thanks to Escoffier, who single-handedly brought the freeze reaction back to the meta, and her incredible synergy with Furina, the pool of viable high-damage freeze teams has become very restrictive. If you don't have Escoffier and Furina or even just Escoffier, the team's damage tend to drop back to being good to not impressive, depending on your main DPS, and as a result, Shenhe also starts to feel less relevant. Unlike Escoffier or even Furina, Shenhe is not a must pick for these freeze comps to perform well. She's usually the best final slot option for Cryo DPS units, but she's also the first one to be replaced by any other Cryo or Hydro support, with only a small drop in team performance. Lastly, let's talk about melt teams. You can use her quills to buff some of your main DPS melt hits, but if you use a burst, which adds a nice boost to her buffing, it might end up stealing some of your melt. So there's a trade-off, and there are generally better buffers out there for melt comps like Shilonen or Kazuha. Now let's quickly break down the constellations to see if they're worth investing in. C1 gives her an extra skill charge, which is nice for energy generation, but not really changes her rotation flexibility. C2 gives the team extra cryo crit damage and increases burst uptime for longer buffing. C3 increases her skill level, which boosts her quill's buff scaling. C4 increases Shenhe's own skill damage, which isn't that impactful. C5 increases her burst level, which just adds a bit more damage. And C6 makes her quills not get consumed, when used with normal and charge attacks. She works great at C0, and her signature weapon has great alternatives, so I don't recommend investing in either unless you really want to. But if you do, her C2 can be nice for stronger buffing and longer uptime, if you are willing to go that far. Shenhe is still a very capable cryo buffer, and currently still holds the spot as the best final slot option in top freeze team with Escoffier and Furina. But that's a very niche and unreliable spot for a 5-star character to be in. She's the first to be replaced if Wriothesley decides to release a new cryo support for freeze teams, which makes her a tough sell when it comes to pull recommendation, especially if you already have a strong cryo or hydro support to fill that last team slot, as the overall team damage difference is usually very competitive. So I'd say only pull her if you already have Escoffier and Furina, plus one of the top cryo DPS units like Skirk, Ayaka and Wriothesley, and of course also if you really want her. That's a very specific scenario, and it's exactly what makes her so niche. Otherwise, unfortunately, I can't really recommend her, since there are just too many good alternatives who can take her place with minimal loss in performance. And that's a wrap. If this video helped you in any way, consider giving it a like and subscribe for more filter guides. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Cheers!